a common theme when you create this kind of music that people want to put you in categories or subcategories. And I think it can be helpful because it can help you find the right audience. I think if you're being compared to bands like Marillion or Arena, bands which I personally love, I don't think that's a bad thing. And if it helps you find the right listeners.
Hi, I'm Simon from All Sweden.
Hi, I'm Hugh, also from All Sweden. And you're watching liveprog.
Charlie, welcome. Congratulations on the new album, Empires Must Fall. It's been released last week. Well, by the time we're recording this, there you have it.
That's right.
I love the cover. I love the cover. It's very appealing. So that's good. But now that the album is out, how are you feeling?
Well, first of all, thank you for the warm welcome, Marcel. It's really great to join you here on liveprog, and thanks for the kind words about the album. Obviously, it's such an exciting thing to release any new music, and I don't know, this album cycle has somehow been more terrifying than the first one. I think with a debut, you don't have too many expectations, right? You know, you can take your time with it, you can put it out into the world at your pace. But once that's out there, people are already expecting the next one, and you have to meet their expectations with it. But you also have to meet your own expectations with it. And that's why we took, the best part of 2 years from the release of Scissor Games before we even entered the recording studio. We spent a lot of time crafting and honing these songs so that we were really as happy as we could be with them. And judging by the response that we've been getting in the first week of its release, I think that was time well spent. So I'm very happy, very relieved that people are enjoying the new music. And it's great to have it in hand. And I hope you'll have your copy very soon.
I hope so too. I mean, fortunately, I have the digital version, so I have been able to listen to the album, and I'm really happy with that because I'm discovering a lot of new music lately. Ghost of the Machine being one of the bands that I recently discovered, and I kind of jump in at the second album, so I haven't really listened properly to the debut album. I have heard it, but just put it on and listen to it. I have been listening a lot more to Empires Must Fall, and there was I think one review, and I believe it was the Dutch review from Prog that kind of said that you are proudly waving the flag for neoprog. You agree with that?
I've talked about this before about genre labels. You can read about in the new edition of Prog magazine. It's a common theme when you create this kind of music that people want to put you in categories or subcategories. And I think it can be helpful because it can help you find the right audience. I think if you're being compared to bands like Marillion or Arena, bands which I personally love, I don't think that's a bad thing. And if it helps you find the right listeners, then great. If you think we sound like Palace, then I'm not going to complain about that. I think, if I had the other guys in the room with me, they would say, well, it's not really something that we try to do. And that is absolutely correct. When we're writing for ourselves. And that melting pot of influences that we've got seeps through into the writing. A lot of it stems from our keyboard player, Mark. And when you've got those kind of sounds, those synths, the sort of Hammond organ that evokes the 70s prog, and you've got those really 80s sounding synths in there too, like the solo on the one. It's going to evoke that kind of era of prog, isn't it? So I don't think it's a complaint from me. What I do hope that comes through is that we're not just a copy or a pastiche of those bands, and that we're bringing something fresh into it. So we're turning all those influences into something that sounds like it was recorded and released in 2025. So that's the goal. We don't want to just retread old ground, but I think it's inevitable if you're fans of that kind of music, if you grew up listening to it and loving it, then what appeals to you when you're writing is going to start to sound a little bit like it too, whether you intend it or not. And I think that's where we got to in the process.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I discovered what we now call prog back in the early '90s. So I kind of grew up, so to speak, on the neoprog thing, and I noticed that is still I would almost say my preferred genre within the prog. I really love that. I have a lot of it. I really love that. So I when I put on the music from Empires Must Fall, that was the click with me immediately. It's like that brought me back to that time, but like style-wise, not that it sounded like it was from the '90s. So it definitely feels like it's a modern album, and you definitely bring a lot to the table from yourselves. I gotta be honest, and that is something I find myself coming up to with a lot of interviews, finding some sort of comparison that everybody blows their mind about. Like, how do you come up with that? So I'm going to blow your mind, probably. But when I was listening to it, I did hear a kind of a pre-The World Pendragon with a young Nick Barrett. That is, when I was listening to that, and especially with Panopticon, that was the moment when I had that. It was like, it kind of sounds a little bit like it, but in a more modern version.
Okay, cool. I mean, I love Pendragon. It's a band I've listened to an awful lot. Oh, I got to meet Clive Nolan for the first time recently. Hey, what a wonderful man. Get sidetracked there. Yeah, I love that. I love if that's what you're hearing, because if it's something you like and we're evoking something you like, then cool. But at the same time, we do hope all those the styles and influences come out as Ghost of the Machine.
You also did a release show recently.
We did, yeah.
So how was it? I mean, I guess you were playing songs from the new album.
We did.
How was it to play them, the whole album? How was it to do that for the first time for an audience?
It was fantastic. You do worry that the new material might not connect as well, and people walk out saying, "Oh well, I preferred the old stuff." We've only got one prior album, but you know what music fans can be like. When you first discover a band and you fall in love with them, it's quite often that first record that you really cleave onto, isn't the one that made you fall in love with them in the first place. And there were a lot of people in the room that night in Sheffield that have followed us throughout the Scissor Games album cycle. It's great to stand there on the stage and see all those friendly faces cheering you on. And it was a room full of love. And they responded really well to the new material. I think by the time we were playing things like The Days That Never Were, we've just done two songs that they've not heard before, the first and the second song. They weren't released anywhere at that time. But they were still into it and giving us that energy. And it spurs you on through the show. And the highlight for me was probably Fall Through Time. Again, because they've not heard it before. But the room just kind of erupted when we finished that one. And it's then you realise, okay, yeah, these do work in the live setting. And people are responding to it really well, even though they don't know it yet. No. So all the signs were good. And it was a celebration.
It's nice to have celebration. It's nice to have that energy in the room.
Yeah.
I have to ask, were people dancing?
Do you know our support act for that night was Dikaji, Olga. I don't know if you've encountered her yet, but she's
not yet.
She's one of the most beautiful, incredible, talented voices in the modern prog circuit. And I invited her to open for us because I just wanted to see her show. But,
that's a good way.
yeah, and she was so cool to work with and introduced the evening in a wonderful way. So I was glad that we did that. But then I was less glad when she was at the front of the stage dancing during our set. And I think it's because the day before our show, she'd supported our arch enemies Sprig and Mist in Reading. So I think they'd turned her against us and sent her to sabotage proceedings. People were having a good time, and if they were moving, so be it.
But no need to stand there and hold up signs,
Oh, you saw that? Yes. Well, that was that. I'm still feeling a little bit sore after the weekend's utter defeat. So I tried my hardest to put an end to the debauchery. It was despicable what Sprig and Mist did.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I
feel for you. Yeah, really.
As I stood there with the no dancing sign, I think it made people dance even more. So I figured after that, if I can't beat them, I may as well join them. And I danced the rest of the night away to the wonderful Solstice. Because they are... Solstice are a wonderful live band.
Yeah.
Oh, Sprig and Mist, Baz might be my arch enemy, but I've got to say, they're a real good time, a really fun live band, and obviously people are responding really well to what they're doing too. So
because of that whole arch enemy thing of yours, I became curious to Sprig and Mist and decided to have a listen. And well, you might have turned me on to some more music because I kind of like what I heard. So
yeah, it's good fun.
Sorry, I'll keep it.
It's okay, I totally accept that they've got some really catchy tunes and they look awesome on the stage and people really enjoy their shows. It's just that Baz is, he's a bully and we need to stop this. And we are going to put an end to it on the 6th of July at Sprig and Mist versus Ghost of the Machine, the rematch.
The rematch, so there has already been a match.
That's right. That's where the feud sprang from.
Ah.
So in 2024, we went on the Power of 3 tour, where we played a few dates with Sprig and Mist. And that's where we discovered that they were bringing prog rock into disrepute with their dancing shenanigans. Yes. So we figured that we needed to settle the score with another live show later this year. So it's happening on the south coast of England.
I wish I could be there.
The UK and the Netherlands aren't too far apart. I go there quite a lot.
Let's get this interview back on track. Let's go back to Empires Must Fall.
Yes.
As you mentioned, this is the second album you recorded with Ghost with the Machine.
Right.
How did the writing process of the album go?
It was an enjoyable process from beginning to end because we had that time to really hone the songs to make them the way we wanted. We actually started writing it before we'd finished recording Scissor Games. And I think that's perhaps part of how it ended up being a direct sequel to the song Scissors, because partly I was already in that headspace with the story, but I also realised that we hadn't had a true resolution to what happened in the story of Scissors. So musically, I loved what the guys were coming up with during that time, and it's really fortunate that it presented me with a platform to tell the story that needed to be told to finish what we'd begun in Scissors. I think we had five of the 6 songs for a really long time as well. Ooh. In some shape or other. We got very editorial with it. We wanted to make sure that they were as good as they could be, and that we'd listen to what we produced on the first record and try to beat it. We wanted to improve on it. A debut is a difficult thing because you're still finding your sound, and on this record we wanted to cement it. We wanted to show an evolution that we were Ghost of the Machine, and this is what we bring to the table. And I think we did that. But as I say, we were missing one song. We had those 5. We had them for a very long time. But when we demoed the album in February last year, so quite close to when we went to the recording studio, it didn't seem quite complete. And then the one appeared. The one missing song was the one.
Okay.
I got a demo of the verse and chorus from Scotty, one of the guitarists, Scott Owens. He sent it to me while I was traveling on the train from my hometown to my original hometown to where I live now. So it's sort of 45 minutes on the train. And I think within 15-20 minutes of that journey, I was so excited by the demo that I'd already written the verses and the chorus, and the rest of the song fell together just as quickly. Within a few weeks, we decided, yeah, this album's finished. We've finished the writing. Let's get in the studio and make this album a reality at last. So yeah, I think it was good to have that time and space to really listen, be critical with ourselves, let the songs develop, and come out to you, the listeners, in the best form that they could possibly be.
Nice that last song is the one. That's
Yeah. So it was the last one we wrote. We never played it together as a 6-piece live in the rehearsal room before we recorded it in the studio either. That's how quickly it came together, with people being away on holiday or missing rehearsal for one reason or the other. We never had all 6 people in the room while we were writing it, which is crazy to think that it still turned out okay. Yeah, so when we got the mixes back from our producer, Bob Cooper, that was the first time we'd heard it with all 6 of us. And it was the first one that we released.
okay.
A single on New Year's Day.
So you were very confident that it was going to be a good song.
The one is the one.
Yeah, but did you call it the one because of that, or that it fits in the whole story of the album?
Yeah, the lyric filled the space between Fall Through Time, the confrontation, and after the war, the resolution of the piece. I wanted to see the anger of the Empress as her entire world comes crumbling down, but instead of looking at her own faults and how this destruction came to be, because she built this empire on false foundations and lies, she chose to blame the person who exposed the truth. So that's what we mean when I can be the one you love to blame when nothing goes your way.
All right. I can't help it, but when I hear that, I kind of think it could fit the actual real world things we see around us right now. So
it's what I try to leave enough space in my lyrics. I don't want it to be, and now he did this, and now she said that. I want it to be vague enough that if you don't want to follow the story, then you don't have to. These songs, you can relate to them in whatever way you wish. You can apply them to the real world that we live in today. You can apply them to your own experiences. If that's what they mean to you, then I think that's wonderful. But there is a story there if people want to discover it.
For the inspiration for that story, where did you get that from?
It started with Scissors, and that came from a story about an abusive relationship where the victim of the abuse, after years and years, finally cracked, and she murdered her abusive partner with I think it was a hammer in the real world, but in my version of it, it was a pair of kitchen scissors. Right. But I wrapped it up in this sort of fantasy wrapper. Wrapped it in a fantasy wrapper. That's a terrible line. Yeah, it's amazing that I can actually write any lyrics when I come out with sentences like that. Goodness me. But yeah, I repackaged it in this fantasy setting where the abuser is this sort of godlike figure called the Puppet King. But the act of violence that destroyed the abuser, the Puppet King, would have to have consequences. And that's where the second album comes in. What happened to Hope, or the Empress as she is now? What happened after she did that at the end of Scissors? And here she elevates herself to be the Empress of her own world, so that she can make it in her own image, so that no one else will suffer like she had at this abuser's hands. But in doing so, she herself becomes a tyrant. It's not real. She's made this fantasy to cope with all the terrible things that have happened to her, but she's bringing other people into her trauma. And when the truth is exposed, she can't deal with it, and that's what's happening in the one. She's blaming everybody else except herself. But we did need to find a conclusion as well. So that's where After the War comes in, and the cycle of violence and coercion is brought to an end with a simple forgiveness. I forgive you for everything that's happened.
Yeah.
So I hope she takes his hand. And
well, it's a forgiveness can be very powerful. So and now that you mention After the War, that's probably my highlight of the album. I absolutely love that. Really love that. So yeah. You wrote the lyrics, you are the vocalist, lead vocalist of the band. You've got 2 albums now. How do you look back on both albums from a vocalist point of view?
That's an interesting question. So Scissor Games was my first recording as a vocalist, and that's quite a scary thing to do. I didn't know that I could do it, but the guys who invited me to join Ghost in the Machine, my bandmates, they showed a lot of faith in me and a lot of patience to do that, and I'm really proud of those performances. I'm really proud of the whole piece. I love that we created that album together. It was a really positive experience, and at the same time, on the new record, I'm even prouder in a way, because I can hear all the improvements that we've made, that I've made as a singer, everything I've learned in that time. I get a lot of advice from people that I really value, people who tell me that what I can work on and improve upon, and that's a great thing. As a musician, you want to be improving all the time. You can never know everything there is to know, and I know that I've got strengths and weaknesses. I want to play to the strengths on the record, but while I'm doing that, I want to be working on my weaknesses. And I can hear those improvements between the 2 albums. It probably helps that I've had other opportunities to sing with other bands in the meantime, because that's always going to, strengthen your range as a singer, singing different material. You're going to get good experience and learn from more fantastic musicians along the way, and it's all a chance to work on the craft. Yeah,
definitely. I'm borrowing something from the interview you did with I.O. Pages. Because I found it very interesting that Genesis was an influence to you. Both Gabriel and Collins, two very different singers.
They are.
So how did they influence you, and especially vocally?
I think they're more similar than people give them credit for, because they're both very outward and theatrical performers. Gabriel, it's very obvious, because you have all the accoutrements, you've got the costumes, and you've got the grand stages that he put together for his later tours. I watched the Secret World DVD, the Growing Up live shows, to absolute death. I don't know if you can wear out a DVD, but I sure tried. Okay. But Collins, he's got that theatrical background. He was the Artful Dodger on the West End before he was a drummer in a band, and I think that really comes out in his vocal performances on record. If you listen to things like Robbery, Assault and Battery from Trick of the Tail, it's not everyone's favourite song, because it's one of those sort of quirky, fun songs, but it's so theatrical, and that brings me into the story.
Ooh.
And that's what I love. I love stories. I love conveying a story. And both of those singers did that for me from a very early age. So it's my older brother. He's 12 years older than me, and I would have been maybe 4 years old in his bedroom listening to these records. Probably tapes on his hi-fi system. And I was hearing things like The Fountain of Salmacis, the intro to that, thinking, oh my goodness, this sounds magical. But Domino as well, so from the Collins era.
Yeah.
So it was the early 90s. Genesis had been, Genesis had Phil Collins as the lead singer for a long time at that point. So I didn't care about whether the stuff from 1974 and before that was better. I didn't care at all. I just love it all equally. And I would say it's quite clear to me that they are both my biggest influences by far.
Is that also why you also play the flute, maybe?
A little bit, yes. The flute thing. I'm not a great flautist at all. I'm very limited. But as soon as you whip your flute out on stage, as soon as you, oh god. But as soon as you do that, people think, prog, this is prog. So I get away with being a limited flautist just because I've got the prop on the stage right there with me. And it also sounds nice. I love how the flute sounds. It's got a beautiful timbre. I love Gabriel's playing on those early Genesis records, You
have one? Ah. Ghost of the Machine were a part of This Winter Machine. We're staying in the Machine area. Then you also did sing with This Winter Machine.
Yes.
Prior to you being part of Ghost of the Machine.
Complicated.
I hope you can still follow it.
Yes. Just about.
How did that happen? That you were invited to sing with This Winter Machine?
Yeah, it's quite simple, really. Al Winter, the singer of This Winter Machine, was unwell, but they had a gig that same week, and myself and Scott's wife, Claire, both learned a few songs each, and we joined them for that gig. It was in Wolverhampton, I believe, at the Slade Rooms. I'm not sure that venue is still going, which is a shame because it was a good experience. But yeah, it was cool. I really loved those songs, and I already loved the guys. I was a big fan of This Winter Machine, so to be invited to play with them was just awesome.
So they kind of already knew you could sing, because otherwise they wouldn't have asked you.
That's it. So Al had seen me a few times with the covers band that I was playing with at the time, and he also knew, obviously, that I really liked his stuff, and the guys in the band were just awesome. I love them to bits, and they made me feel very welcome, and we had a good chemistry on stage. So when it came to pass that they were forming their own band, it's cool that they remembered that and invited me to be their singer going forward.
Yeah. So I guess you made a good impression then.
Yeah, just a little bit of being in the right place at the right time, I suppose. Because it's not often that you get such a great opportunity to join a band with people that you're already a fan of, right? This is the sort of stuff I love and would love to do. Oh my God, they're asking me to do it. Of course I'm going to say yes. Yeah. And it's terrifying at the same time because I had no experience of being the lead singer of an originals band, writing my own vocal parts and lyrics. It wasn't something that I knew I could do. But I suppose you can only find out by trying and doing it, yeah?
That's true. Yeah, definitely.
So they put a lot of faith in me. I'm very, very grateful for that, and I think the results of the partnership are showing in the record that we've just made, and long may it continue.
Yeah. What's the nicest thing of being in Ghost of the Machine?
The nicest thing of being in Ghost of the Machine. I think it's that camaraderie. It's the fact that when we get into a room and we do it every week, we're all on the same page. We've got guys who've been making music together since the 90s, right? Long-standing musical partnerships and friendships. So the fact that we all get on as people makes going to band practice like the highlight of the week every week. I've got a day job that's not very rock and roll, but then I get to go up to Leeds where we rehearse and forget about real life for a bit and just make music with these really cool, experienced, talented guys. That's the best thing. It's great.
I can imagine that.
I'm still a fan in a lot of ways.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I also see myself always as a fan of music, even though I try to do interviews and try to be professional about it, but deep down I'm just this fanboy, very happy, to get close to the musicians that make the music that make me happy. So, yeah, I kind of get that.
I think you're very cool.
You mentioned a little bit about singing in other bands. I mean, so Ghost of the Machine is not the only thing you do. I do believe it was kind of said that you were one of the most active vocalists in the UK.
It's probably felt like that to a lot of people. I think the fact that I end up with a credit on far too many records is a potential source of annoyance. I don't know. You don't want to annoy people or do so much that people are sick of you, but I keep getting asked to do really cool things by musicians that I really like, and it's so hard to say no, so I just say yes. Oliver Rusing from Caribou just released a new album, Panterania, and I have a small part on that, so that was really fun. Last year I released a record with John Cook and Mark Gatland from Hats Off Gentlemen, It's Adequate, Don Benison. We had a couple of guests on that as well. That was Age of Distraction, something a little heavier, a bit closer to the sort of proggy metal that I really like, very melodic, and just a chance to stretch my voice in a different direction. Really enjoyed making that record.
Yeah.
There was Nine Skies as well. I released The Light Maker, and I was a friend of Eric Bouillet's, who was the guitarist of Nine Skies, and also a wonderful violinist. And we'd made music together for Nova Cascade, for whom I was the flautist. A real loss to music. Eric is one of the nicest souls you could ever wish to meet, and a real talented person who just loved creating. So when Anne Claire, his widow, and Alexandra, the Nine Skies guitarist, asked if I would be involved, then of course you have to say yes, because I love you, and it was just a really beautiful piece of music to work with. So really proud of that too. Yeah, gosh, I mean, if I ran through everything that I've done in the last 2-3 years, it would probably take up a good day or two of record.
So you're doing a lot. How do you balance all this? I mean, you mentioned you have a day job, you have Ghost of the Machine, and all these other things. How do you balance it?
Yeah, with difficulty. The Shadows on Mercury EP that Scotty and I put out last year didn't take up too much time. It's only 5 songs, and we recorded it over quite a lengthy period of time when we had availability. The Age of Distraction thing came together quite quickly. The Nine Skies piece was 1 song, so you just fit it in around your other commitments. And when these offers come along, I will try and make time to do that. At the moment, I do have to turn down any new offers because I need to be laser focused on Ghost of the Machine. That's my absolute priority right now. We've got this record and I want to tell the whole world about it. So I'm sure I'll get other opportunities to collaborate with more wonderful musicians in future. I look forward to it, but right now the focus has to be, and I want it to be, on Ghost of the Machine.
I really hope one day you get this way and perform here in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I'd love to. It's again about those right opportunities coming up, and so far lots of great opportunities have presented themselves. Not just the formation of the band and the reaction that we had to the debut. There was the fact that we were able to be signed, which made the process of making the new record that much easier.
Yeah,
it's been brilliant to be with progrock.com's Essentials because it makes it easier for us to get our music heard by more people, and we are seeing the results of that already. So if those opportunities can come along, then hopefully the right opportunity to play in Europe or elsewhere will appear as well. Yeah. It's very difficult because we have the spectre of Brexit. That dreaded word that does make it difficult for touring bands both ways, to the UK and out of the UK. But it can be done. My friends in Grace and Fire, for example, went on tour with the mighty Threshold, and it was awesome. A run of dates through Europe, including the Border Eye. Yeah, and that's somewhere I'd love to go myself. So you never know. If we play our cards right and we get seen by the right people, maybe an offer will come along. I hope so.
I definitely think the new album will be a good help with that. I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna absolutely love it.
Fingers crossed.
I do think that we're still early in the new year, but I've already have like a top 5 of albums that might be my top 5 for albums of the year. So there are, and I'll tell you, Empires Must Fall is in that top 5, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if we can stay there, then that's wonderful. But like you say, there is so much good music. I mean, we finished recording Empires Must Fall. I think it was July. The end of July, we'd finished all our tracking days. Then we mixed it, mastered it. It was all done sort of by the end of August. And you think, great, we've got this music. We could release it now. But we thought, no. We'll give ourselves a bit of time. Get a campaign ready. Make sure we're not stressing about producing the CDs. And we can put the singles out in a strategic kind of way. So great, we picked a release date, 7th of March. And then before you know it, everyone else is announcing their March releases, and you're going up against Stephen Wilson, you're going up against Jethro Tull, IQ, and you're kicking yourself because it's crowded. But it doesn't actually matter, People, if you've produced a record that people will want to hear, then they're going to find it. I hope.
Yeah.
So if we can stay in that conversation, I'll be really pleased. Gosh, this one's coming out tomorrow. Have you seen this one?
Tribe 3.
Yeah, I've just received
I heard just the one song of it, and I absolutely love that song. So I will check that out as well.
That's what happened to me. I heard one song and I thought, God damn it, these guys have done some great music.
I'll do even more. I think I have the entire album in my mail. Digital.
Have they sent it to you? Good.
They have sent it to me. Yes.
Good.
They were kind enough to send it me. I'm getting in touch with a lot of these bands that I'm discovering. I'd like to know more about them, and not just me. I hope there are a lot of more people interested in it. So that's why I do these interviews. So people can also meet the people behind the music and hear the stories behind it, because that is something I like to hear, and I really hope people will love to hear that as well. So, as you mentioned, let's keep the conversation going and let get people let's get keep people interested in whatever's going on and coming out. So I'm going to do my part in there, definitely.
You certainly are. I mean, it's going to be a great year for prog, so you're not going to be short of content. That's for sure.
That's true. It's definitely a good year for prog, and I think it's still amazing that it's still we get all this great music. I mean, it doesn't seem to slow down or anything.
No, what I do hope is that we see, audiences keep growing as well. Because I think there's a bit of a sense that it's a genre of music that was left in the 70s or the 80s, but it really wasn't. It's such a thriving, active scene. There are so many events happening right now celebrating prog, putting all these new acts on the stage in front of people. So if people like yourself and all these promoters and the radio show hosts and reviewers in magazines keep spreading the word, I think we can get prog into a really healthy shape again. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Let's go to a really important question.
I'm ready.
A question I've been looking forward to asking you. What is the most useless talent you have?
Most useless talent? I don't have any talents.
I disagree, but okay.
Most useless talent. Okay, I'm really good at making fake Pokemon cards.
And why do you do that?
Because I like making up my own Pokemon card ideas. So I open up Photoshop and I make a Pokemon card that I would have wanted to see when I was a kid. And I used to do that all the time in my teens, but I did it as recently as last month. No shame.
Ooh. Oh, you heard it here first.
It's completely useless. I'm not doing it for anything other than my own amusement. I'm not selling fake Pokemon cards. I'm creating them.
You're creating, all right. But
them
you are also making up the stories for the music. You're making up the Pokemon cards, which is also kind of a story. So it all fits together, all the pieces and everything. When I see the photos and the videos of you guys being on stage, I really feel Pikachu. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted your question.
Yeah. I really feel that you look in your element on stage. So what do you like more? Do you like recording in a studio or being on stage?
If you'd asked me that 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said on stage all the time, because that's my background. I used to do theatre before I started doing any sort of music whatsoever. I didn't know I loved doing music, but I knew I loved doing plays and acting Shakespeare and writing my own original plays and having them staged. That's what I did sort of in my teens and early 20s. So I'm comfortable on a stage. I'm comfortable performing for a crowd, and that's been able to translate really well into being in a band. And even my first covers bands, I was in 2 covers bands, one called Catalyst and one called Harmony of Spheres. And I was always trying out, different costumes, a little bit Gabriel-esque, to work on that stagecraft in a musical setting. And I still do that with Ghost of the Machine, just in a slightly different way. But it allows me to be very expressive and to engage with the audience. I love to look people in the eyes while I'm singing. I think they enjoy it too. I'm not looking over the audience. I'm right there with them, and having that theatrical background gives me the confidence to do that, I suppose. So I wasn't confident singing in front of people, but I was confident performing. So that helped me through those initial nerves as a singer, right? However, in the last couple of years, I've worked with some really great producers, And I'll give a shout out to Bob Cooper, who produced both Scissor Games and Empires Must Fall, but also to Dom Benison, who I worked with on Nine Skies, Shadows on Mercury, and Age of Distraction. They both gave me spaces to perform in front of the mic for recording purposes where I could still be that expressive self. They really encouraged it and were able to get the best performances out of me, I think, on those days in the studio. So I've learned to love that part of the process as well, and to hear back what we're creating in real time is really exciting.
Yeah.
So I think the first time I was in the vocal booth, I was a little bit, retreating into myself a little bit. The walls were kind of closed. I'm not used to this, and worrying about being perfect. But you don't need to be. Like, you're in a recording studio. You can have as many tries as you like.
That's true. Yeah.
And I've learned that my best take is usually the fourth take.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what I'm singing. Apparently, the fourth take is always the one, and we'll go and do a couple more, and we'll say, "No, the fourth take was good." But that I've developed a process and a shorthand with these guys that have made me really love recording music as well as performing music. So I didn't really give you a clear answer, did I? I didn't decide which one I prefer.
I kind of think you did.
Ooh, okay, good. I'll let you think that.
No, but what you're saying, and I think that's the how do you say that? The good thing about having a good producer, if he gives you the room to express yourself. I mean, when you mentioned that, I could thought back of these. Sometimes you see these behind the scenes of like animated movies that they do the voices, and then when you see them, they're it's almost theatrical. They're almost all these gestures and everything. And so nobody's going to see it, but it does help with conveying the voice into the character, and I think maybe that works for you with the music as well. It
does. So, it really does. I try and find the voice of the character who's narrating these lyrics or whatnot. So having a producer that encourages that, whether it's Bob or Dom, it's been really great.
yeah, definitely.
I know exactly what you mean, because I was watching the behind the scenes of Sonic 3. Idris Elba with these big white gloves just thumping as he's doing Knuckles.
Yeah.
It's really fun watching voice actors in motion.
Maybe next time when you record an album, they should put a camera in your vocal booth.
No one wants to see what happens there. Just dancing around like an idiot between lines. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, dancing. Even in the vocal booth.
Man, I'm fighting a losing battle there.
Well, the Bas better not know that you're dancing in the vocal booth. I mean, he's going to use that against you. So.
Well, I'm not going to tell him. Are you?
I'm not. And we're going to ban him from watching this interview, of course.
We are, yes.
Yeah, he cannot watch this at all, definitely. Yeah, so I'll put a sign on it.
Right in the comments, Baz, do not watch.
Yeah. All right. We've covered a lot, and I'm pretty sure we could go on for a long time. But is there anything that really should have been included in this interview that we haven't?
Yes, there is. And that is where to buy the album.
That's very important.
That's the most important thing. So if you want to grab your copy of Empires Must Fall, you can head to our website, www.gotm.band, or ghostofthemachineofficial.com. I'll both take you to the same place. You can find Empires Must Fall on our web store there. Or if you prefer Bandcamp, you can head to ghostofthemachine.bandcamp.com, and our album's available there too. If you're based in Europe, you might also want to buy from essentials.progrock.com or from justforkicks.de. They will make sure that you get the album without paying those pesky Brexit-related import fees. So lots of places to find our new CD, and if you do get hold of it, we really hope you enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed making it.
It's only in the dark where we truly see ourselves. We are vessels for the future.